Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining Double Radius for today's webinar with Cambium Networks. The topic for today is delivering in-building Wi-Fi with CN Pilot, and will be presented by Darren Hermans, CN Pilot Product Manager. Throughout the webinar, if you have any questions on the material, please enter them into your questions box, and this will allow us to refer to them during the Q&A portion at the end of the webinar. Lastly, at the end of the webinar, please just take a brief moment to complete the survey that will appear on your screen. And with that, I'll turn it over now to Darren Hermans, CN Pilot Product Manager for Cambium Networks.
Thank you, Chad, and welcome everyone. I appreciate your taking the time out today to join us on this call. We're going to be talking a bit about Cambium Networks Wi-Fi portfolio. Before we do that, let me just introduce myself. I'm actually a recent employee here at Cambium Networks. My background and my history is I've worked for about 16 years as product management in broadband technologies, specifically VDSL and Wi-Fi access point development. Motorola, Zebra, and so forth. There are several companies I've worked for. My primary experience being with Motorola. So I'm glad to be back at Cambium Networks and joining my some of the great RF engineers and radio engineers that I worked with years ago at Motorola. And Cambium Networks, really, if you describe who is Cambium and what they are, at the end of the day and at the start of the day, they are and always will be a radio and RF engineering company. And that's where Cambium got its start, developing some really cool technologies, a lot of patent stuff, and that's where they're continuing to develop new radio and RF technologies. So really that's its forte and that's its strength. So I'm part of the indoor Wi-Fi product management group and responsible for helping partners that have experience with Cambium in the broadband space and the ISP space understand how they can be profitable by bringing Wi-Fi enterprise technologies into their the customer's building, inside the building. So we look at our E-Series enterprise class products. So not a lot of difference here when you look at a full suite. There's not a lot of missing gaps. So we have a full complement of enterprise class products, from your high-end, high-performance 4x4 access points to E600, the E410 wall plate APs for hospitality, and of course, again, with our pedigree being the outdoor space, of course, we would have a good set of outdoor APs as well. So some of the key things about these technologies, really the 600 series is the one you're going to be looking at for ultra high density networks. That's where you've got things like a large retail store, a hotel with conference rooms and resorts where they have lots of people and people come in for a wedding or a business conference, and you get hundreds of people in a room at the same time, all trying to compete for bandwidth. And so in those spaces, you always want to go for your top of the line, your 4x4 access points. That's where the E600 sits. One of the interesting things about the E600 that I'm finding out from a lot of customers that they're using it for, on the back side of it, there's a slot that was mechanically designed in there to hold an LTE client radio. So we actually have some customers, and I've seen some customers actually shown me in the past month how they've done this, where they take an LTE client radio and take a little short stubby USB port and fit it into the area on the back side of the AP, plug it into the USB port. So when they install the AP then in their customer's location, there is no exposed USB port, there's no exposed LTE client radio that can be easily removed. So it's a nice little use case that I've come across since I've been starting here at Cambium, where customers are actually using LTE as a broadband technology to deploy Wi-Fi hotspots using the E600. The E410 is going to be your general use, high performance. Generally going to use it almost everywhere in almost any market. SMB enterprise, definitely retail market, transportation, logistics markets are going to benefit from the E410. We have some specialized things such as the E430. The interesting thing about the E430, it is a wall plate, and a lot of companies make a wall plate AP. This one has a lot of nice options for mounting that you can order. It comes with a mounting bracket for most deployments. but you can also order desktop mounting brackets. You can order different types of wall type of mounting brackets for different applications. So really the 430, there is nowhere that you cannot deploy that thing, either on top of a desk, under a desk, over a wall socket, yes or no. You can deploy it anywhere using one of the brackets that are available. The outdoor APs, a couple of things I've noticed about our outdoor APs that are really nice is that it tend to be very, very high gain, high efficiency antennas. And again, that goes to the pedigree of Cambium Networks. One of the key things that you'll notice about our APs, the E5 series and E7 series, is that the mounting bracket is included. And that's actually a pretty significant savings versus competitive solutions, and also reduces complexity quite a bit. We also sell APs for residential customers. So we have the ISPs and MSPs that use broadband, and then they want to deploy a home network, a home router inside the homes for their customers, and they lease them or sell them to those customers as needed for their business. So we have the R190 is a single band 2.4 gigahertz 11N. Been around for several years now, and it's starting to show its age a little bit because it's 11N. It's 2.4 11N. The 201 is a pretty popular AP these days because the dual band 5 gig high performance AP. You'll notice that these APs have FSX ports, so those are analog telephony ports that can be used to deliver essentially voice over IP services right into the home. They can plug in their analog phone into a jack on the AP. Some of the APs have PoE out. So why would I need PoE out? Well, if you're in the WISP market, you want to connect that PoE out can actually be cabled up to a Cambium subscriber module to provide the broadband connectivity to the home, and then bring the signals, the broadband data right down to the AP. And then it can be distributed throughout the house using this R-Series residential access point. Coming up in 2019, you can expect to see a 4x4 premium AP coming out in this market space. Again, a low-cost R-Series, 4x4, 5 gigahertz, AP, 4x4 on both bands, dual-banded. 5 gig Gigi switch, again, the FSX ports, two FSX ports, and PoE out for a Cambium subscriber module. So you can expect to see an upgrade in that technology. I won't cover this data because this is basically the same data we've already covered, but just kind of looks at the entire portfolio all on one sheet, nice reference slide. One of the key technologies that we want to talk about is cnMaestro. And cnMaestro being our cloud, it's not just a cloud management. It really is a unified management system. It's a wireless LAN and wired controller that you can deploy anywhere. The key thing about this technology is it really does help us to bridge what you're doing in the outdoor space with broadband and bring it indoor with the enterprise Wi-Fi. So if you're already comfortable with and using cnMaestro to manage outdoor wireless and in the broadband space, use exactly the same interface, exactly the same system to now bring that service inside the building. And the reverse is also true. If you're coming from the space of, I'm an enterprise Wi-Fi vendor, and you're using cnMaestro, you like to use this because it's a nice, easy UI to use, and we'll show you some of the other things it does in a minute here. And if you want to get into the outdoor space, again, it works both ways. So it really does bridge the two. This is a unified management system that interconnects our broadband with the enterprise wireless. So this is the technology. A lot of companies are talking about this, but when it comes right down to it, they don't actually do what Cambium does. And so this is a point that we want to drive home very clearly. There are 3 deployment models for managing the Cambium Network cnPilot access points. The first is use our cnMaestro from the cloud. You can take that same, if you decide, nope, I don't want to do that because whatever reason, my customers don't like cloud, my customers are afraid of cloud, my customers don't trust the cloud. Those are all valid reasons. People have those concerns. So you can take the same software, exactly the same software, bring it down on premises, put it in your own server, and you can manage the entire network yourself from exactly the same user interface. It's the same. It's the same UI, same features, same deployment, all supported by the same cnMaestro software. And so that statement right there actually cannot be said with most of our competitors. They will have something in the cloud, they'll have something on premises. They try to make the UIs look about the same, but they're not. And so this is something that's unique with Cambium Networks. And finally, we have the autopilot mode. So the autopilot mode is by necessity because it's literally built into the AP itself. It's the management shared amongst a group of APs. So autopilot is not going to have exactly the same features, but it has the same core features as cnMaestro. The same basic technology is there. You still get your runtime RF optimizations, which are all done at the edge APs because the APs themselves actually monitor the RF and do the management. You still get the seamless roaming, again, because that's part of the edge intelligence in the AP. You get firmware updates, you get your network status and stats, all from the autopilot. Autopilot is basically, you know what, I don't want to use cnMaestro. I have a small network, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 APs, and you can just mix and match those APs and you can manage them from a single AP as acting as a manager. So really simple deployments. The key thing here, the key word here is consistent. Consistent. You don't have to learn 3 different management systems to use these 3 different methods. Now, at the end of the day, you're probably going to use one method and just stick with it, and that's the smart thing to do. But if you need to use one of these other methods, you don't have to learn something new. And that is something unique to Cambium. So how big is this? Well, I took a snapshot just a couple weeks ago, September 1st, of our deployments worldwide. People using cloud. Is cloud real? Well, yes, it is. Cloud management is very real. It truly is no cost. It truly is global. We're operating in 112 countries. And it is everything. It's point-to-point, multi-point broadband. It's residential. It's enterprise Wi-Fi. So we are deploying all of these technologies, traditional as well as MSP networks, across the globe for customers. So this entire system is highly redundant. The redundancy starts at the edge AP. So the edge AP itself has the intelligence to manage the Wi-Fi, manage the RF, and do optimizations in real time on premises, right on the site itself. And then when you look at your management systems up into the cloud, we have redundant databases. We have high availability instances of the cnMaestro cloud running in different data centers around the world. So the cloud architecture it's secure. So we're using SSL connectivity between the APs themselves and our cloud instance. It's redundant and fault tolerant because we're using distributed message buses. The databases are all distributed across redundant servers in the data centers, and we're distributing those data centers across the globe as well. Zero-touch deployments, so it's very simple to set up, create AP profiles, a profile for a particular site, and then APs can be adopted into that site, and they can acquire the configuration that's specific for that profile for that particular site. Customers are using these for managed Wi-Fi. They use the same exact system, so you don't have to learn a new system. You can use the same exact cnMaestro system to manage your MSP workflows. You can create individual properties. You can create groups of tenant accounts so that customers can have their own access to their own network and not see their other people's networks, but they only see their own. But you, as a service provider, can actually manage all of these tenant accounts. So we're doing a lot of work on continuing to enhance the enterprise capabilities of the software, adding new features all the time. And so some of these features are being added regularly. Every few months we'll be releasing new software for cnMaestro. You can do a real-time network scan, which is kind of a neat little technology, neat little feature. So yes, the system does monitor the RF. It does react to changes in the RF. But you can also yourself just go in and using the tools, you can initiate a network scan to look at all the channels, the noise floor on the channels, and how much signal power is on every channel. So you can actually do this in a real-time scan mode. You can schedule your maintenance windows, daily, weekly system backups. You can schedule firmware pushes out to the APs. KPIs are also available. Key performance metrics are really important for managing an enterprise network. Enterprise networks are so much different than a home Wi-Fi, because at home I have one AP, two APs, not a big deal. But when you talk about an enterprise network with potentially hundreds of APs per site, you have to know what the noise floor is. You have to be able to characterize your co-channel interference, utilization, the airtime, and make sure the network is actually performing properly. So these KPI graphs are also available, enhanced reporting and management tools within cnMaestro. So I talked earlier about MSPs, managed service providers. And so we find companies set up to service education customers, hospitality, MDU. There was a nice article today I just ran across. I forgot the name of the website it was on, but it was about a nice little article about how restaurants are beginning to outsource the setup, maintenance, and management of guest Wi-Fi networks in restaurants. And that kind of looks a little like MDU, a little bit like hospitality, but it really is a sub-market where, again, this MSP market is really emerging, and the ability of you to act as a managed service provider for customers in your geographical area. You've got a single services window. You can create tenant accounts. You can create roles so that people access it and see only the systems that they need to see and work on. A key thing is you can brand it, so you can actually put your own custom brand as well, and then the customers will see your company name instead of Cambium Networks. Disruptive economics. Now this is a high-level MSP view of several right down the middle of the road, 2x2 wave 2 access points that really comprise the bulk of the market. I mean, these APs right here are sold far more than any other type of description AP. This is right down the middle of the road. These APs can be used everywhere. So obviously, competitive solutions, no one's really going to pay Ruckus $675 for that R510. Nobody's really going to pay Meraki $649 for that MR33. Discounts will apply. Yeah, we all know that. But we start to add them all up. No one's going to pay $750 to $1,000 for an AP with 3 years of maintenance and a cloud license. But think about how much work it's going to take and how much effort is required to get the price down to a point where you, as the partner, can be more profitable. And that's the view that Cambium takes. We took the view that we need to simplify the process. So it's not just disruptive economics, it's a disruptive business model because we're no longer requiring you to have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops and provide a whole bunch of guarantees on what you're going to be able to sell next year to get the discount price that you need to be successful in your business. You're going to get it right from day one with Cambium. So we offer the cloud license is literally zero cost. Software maintenance, firmware updates, no kidding, it's zero. So you don't have to come back and ask for 50% discount on software maintenance because it's already zero. Okay, so simplifies the process and gives you the price that you need to be more profitable. What can you do with that money? You can put it in your pocket, or you can pass it on to your customer and win more business. Either way, it's putting more money in your pocket. And that's what we're trying to do. Next month, I'm going to give you a little preview here of some upcoming programs that we're going to be launching. Again, all around special pricing for some specific markets and products for specific markets. We will be launching some hospitality promos, so please talk to Double Radius, talk to them now, talk to them today, talk to them next month in October, and get details about this hospitality promo. So definitely, actually, don't bug them today. We're holding back the details on the launch program. We've got a bunch of material ready to launch off in October. So we're going to give you a little bit of a preview right now today, a little bit of touch on what we're going to be doing, but we'll officially launch this program in October. So make sure you follow up with Double Radius to get the right promos for hospitality. So basically in hospitality, large hotels, you have conference rooms, they have their own requirements. High density, they need high bit rate required. Lobby doesn't have a whole lot of requirements. You know, lobby, most hotels in the lobby, it's just some basic internet access. You'll see people sitting on chairs and couches around a lobby, surfing the internet. I'm not doing a whole lot. Guest rooms, very unique. Guest rooms are unique. They're quite different than conference rooms. Guest rooms, you have to deliver the at-home Wi-Fi experience. You have to make the experience the same thing that people do at home. What do people do at home? They stream multimedia. They stream massive amounts of multimedia at home. It's interesting that I believe, and I'll show you the charts in a minute here, but I'll go off my memory. I believe it's 51% of all primetime data the primetime streaming data is coming from Netflix and YouTube. And I believe the number was 39 or 40% of all primetime data is some form of streaming multimedia. So that's everything on the internet. It's like 40% of everything people do is streaming multimedia. That's the same experience. That's where the Wallplay E430 comes in, because it gives the guest exactly what they have at home, an access point in their room. If it's a resort, all the kids can come, they can all connect up to it, no problem at all. So with our special hospitality promo pricing, we're going to be able to show people what the pricing can really be. If you look at a small hotel, and I'll get in lots of trouble showing pricing here, so you guys can shoot me later. But you know, this is what we're doing. We're really breaking some new ground here. A small hotel, you don't have the outdoor space. You might have one meeting room, maybe two, but you know, not a whole lot, right? But basically, a small hotel is a lobby and a bunch of guest rooms. You can get this down with our new promo pricing as low as, you know, $38 per room can be the cost. So that's a significant advantage to the partner community selling into hospitality versus what the competition is doing. So I'm gonna skip over here, and I'm gonna show you some of the materials and tools that we're doing for this hospitality promo. And I'm going to make sure that you're seeing what I'm seeing. Yes, you are. Okay, good. So this is one of the tools we're going to release next month, October, and it's essentially a bomb generator. Now this is designed for hospitality. There's no hidden worksheets here. There's no protected cells here. So you can take this thing apart and use it for, you know, other markets that you may be serving. Let's just walk through this just quickly here and show you what we're going to be doing. So let's start at the top. Region. Well, let's see. I'm not in a non-U. I'm not anywhere. I'm not rest of the world. I'm in the U.S. Okay, good. So we're just going to pick U.S. It's a medium-sized hotel. And so we put in some basic numbers here. These are kind of average numbers for a medium-sized hotel, and this is a good starting point. If you don't like the numbers, you can change them. So if you want to put 1 AP per room, put 1 AP per room. Just go ahead and change the number right there. Easy to do. And then these are all some basic stuff. So we got a meeting room, small meeting room here. We've got a small lobby. We got some back of the house areas that the staff needs to have coverage. Do you want to include a PoE switch? Yes or no? As you may be aware, Cambium is going to be launching a line of PoE switches soon. And so we'll start including that information here as well. So we're going to include a PoE switch to say yes. Most customers and partners, I hate to say this, but they don't buy the extended support simply because so much value comes from the product as is. If you want to see what some of these APs are, what is the 430, what is the 410, which one should I choose? Take a look over here on the side, and it gives you a bit of a primer into what those products are and where you might want to pick which AP. Then your bill of materials, there it is. So now you've got a medium-sized hotel with a lobby, meeting room, some back of house, $47,000. There's your bill of materials. You can take this, you can adjust it, create your own BOMs out of it, adjust the pricing to reflect the correct discounts, and then now you've got yourself a nice tool that you can use to build out a quote, change some values, copy out your BOM. All right. One more thing that I'm going to walk you through here is going to be our website. We've launched a website for hospitality, and we're going to be making some adjustments to this as well for October. The key word here is it just works. That's our key word, and that's really what it has to be, right? It has to be something that is super, super simple. So let me just scroll to the bottom here. All right, here's those things I was referring to earlier. So Netflix and YouTube together is over 50% of all this streaming video content. Over 50% is just Netflix and YouTube alone. And we see those numbers when we look at hospitality. Here's an interesting graph. This is brand new. This just came out just a couple months ago. The blue line represents television, and the purple line represents internet browsing for media consumption. So where are people getting their media from? Well, this year, 2009, at the end of 2018 and early next year is the crossing point. That's the point at which more people will get all of their media from the internet than from watching TV. So guess what that makes the importance of internet? It makes it through the roof. This web page also has white papers. Take a look at some of these white papers and read them through. Exceptional guest Wi-Fi. The key thing in this white paper is it focuses here on what you need to be successful, to be able to deploy this network that delivers an at-home experience inside of guest rooms. It's high density for the conference rooms, supports multimedia, like we talked about the importance of that. This is important. You've got to have this automatic RF management, and it's got to be built into the AP. You can't have this automatic RF management being decided by a controller off somewhere else. The intelligence has to be built into the AP that is serving the clients in real time, and we do that with Cambium. Secondly, roaming. You've got to be able to roam. You have to in hotels. In your house, you don't have to roam. You're walking around your house, you're connected to one access point, it's not a big deal. When you're building out an enterprise network, and particularly hospitality, you have to be able to roam between APs. You need to have technology that enables that, and Cambium builds that into the edge intelligence inside the AP. This is a nice white paper that I encourage you to take a look at. It's you might call it old. It's an 11AC primer, but it's good information. And particularly now that 11AC is a mature technology, we've been using it now for several years. It's good to sort of review what is 11AC. You know, what are the things? And here's an interesting fact that not a lot of people really realize. There are only 2 mandatory requirements for 11AC. Everything else is actually optional. Now, the truth is that every vendor, or most vendors, deploy almost all these optional features because they are really good features. But the spec itself only has VHT frames and channel bonding as the actual mandatory requirements. But we all do explicit transmit beamforming, airtime fairness, and so forth. So this paper describes what each one of those things does. It describes what the higher modulations, what benefit you get out of it, airtime fairness. So it's a nice review of 11AC. So take a look at that as well, all available from the Hospitality Wi-Fi Solutions portal at Cambium. And then one more thing before we're wrapped up here. I want to go back to our presentation, and let's talk a little bit about new technology that's going to be happening next year, 11AX. So AX is going to come out, and I just talked about AC. I just told you AC is good. So why do we need AX? And what is this core value, and what should you be looking for? So when we look at AC, and this is what that white paper kind of talks a little bit about, 11AC really demonstrated how fast we can build a network. And so 11AX is actually not going to be much faster than 11AC. It actually will not. The top line speeds will not be any faster, but 11AX will be significantly better than AC. So this slide here, it gives you a little review as to what were the main features of 11AC, and what was the value. And this one, multi-user MIMO, let me get my little clicker here. There we go. Multi-user MIMO turns out to be a technology that took a long time to really come into play. And the real reason is because most of the handset vendors were very slow at adopting it. And the reason is here. It has high CPU utilization, lowers your battery life. And so generally, MU-MIMO was not well supported in AC. For example, your iPhones. iPhones do not support 11AC multi-user MIMO. They do not support it. And that is what even the brand new ones, they just don't do it. And so as a result of that, we find that technology is not as useful as we wanted it to be. So what's going to happen? Let me turn this thing off here. Clear. Okay. So what's going to happen with AX? Well, with AX, the goal is efficiency. So there's some building blocks. This one right here, OFDMA, is a key technology. OFDMA is essentially the same technology, same modulation schemes that are used in cellular LTE networks. And so cellular has much higher density than Wi-Fi as a result of OFDMA. Also, another building block is going to be much greater efficiency with multi-user MIMO. So the 11AX spec actually defines upstream and downstream multi-user MIMO, the ability to transmit and receive in multi-user MIMO. So 8x8 is going to give us 2x more density concurrent transmissions versus 11AC. Target wait time is another key one. This one is going to greatly reduce battery consumption, battery power. This is going to be a technology that people are going to be looking for in 11AX. So companies like Apple, in particular, they are always very sensitive to battery consumption. They're going to be looking at these target wait time advantages to see how it can improve the iPhone's characteristics. Deeper QAM densities. Actually, we do this with 11AC today, but with 11AX, we're going to get 1024 QAM, an additional 25% greater capacity versus 11AC. So let's go on to the last slide here. Okay, so we talked about what is 11AX, what is the story of it, and the story is going to be efficiency. With 11AC, we do 80. Actually, the spec even offers 160 megahertz wide channels, although no one's really using that, but it's possible. So 11AC has these massive speeds. It's a very fast technology. The problem with 11AC, with all these wide channels, is that we're using an entire channel for each transmission time slot. So there's been a lot of attempts in 11AC to try to transmit multiple times in the same time slot, and not very effectively. With AX, we're going to mimic what OFDMA, we're using OFDMA, so we're going to now be able to utilize the same techniques and same technologies, not mimicry, we're actually using OFDMA. So we're actually going to be able to utilize the same technology that cellular networks are based on to transmit in smaller slices of time, smaller transmission time slots. So each of these subcarriers are now as small as 2 megahertz. This is going to be very, very efficient for voice technology and IoT. Voice applications, a typical voice call takes about 64 to 90 kilobits per second. Very, very small amount of bandwidth. There's no reason to use an entire 20 or 40 megahertz channel just to transmit a voice call, when you can do it in a subcarrier that's only 2 megahertz wide. So 11AX is going to dramatically drive up the density of our Wi-Fi networks. It's going to be much more efficient because we're not wasting time not transmitting data. And we're going to allow concurrent client transmissions in each time in the same time slot. So there's lots of cool things that AX is going to be doing. And you'll start seeing some AX access points coming out at the end. Some are starting to hit the market now, some early ones, some pre-standard ones hitting the market. Cambium will introduce something in the second half of 2019 of 11AX OFDMA. However, I mentioned earlier that that 11AC Wave 2 was slow to be adopted, and one of the reasons is because the handsets were slow. So that's the thing you want to watch for when it comes to 11AX. You want to watch what the handset vendors are doing. And when they start to support 11AX, then you can start to see the need. You can basically take that as your starting point and generally add about 12 months to that date when the major vendors start supporting AX, add about 12 months before you hit the mass market capability of AX technology. So really most industry analysts believe that AX will start to take off in 2020. Early 2020 is kind of the estimate. Based upon that, when do the handsets support it? At about 12 years, or 12 months rather, and then so we're looking at probably 2020 before we start to see mass adoption of AX technology. But that's where we're going. That's the future. All right, Chad. Chad, that you covered a lot of material rather quickly there. I hope I wasn't too chatty, and I'll if you don't mind, I'd like to turn it back to you and see if you have any questions that we can cover.
Yeah, thank you very much for all the good information. We've got a few questions here. People can be typing additional questions too as we start to go through some of the questions. One question, going back to a little bit earlier in the presentation, when performing real-time network scan, what effect does real-time network scan have on the actual operation of the network?
So yeah, that's a great question, because basically the question is, does it slow things down? So no, it doesn't, because the APs actually schedule their transmission times, their scan time when the APs are available, when they're not servicing clients. So if an access point is actively involved in a voice call, it's not going to scan. But actually what happens is, if you look at, let's take an average AP, a very average one. I'm going to flip back here real quickly. Take like the 410. I just use that kind of a, here we go, right there. The E410, very commonly used in the enterprise. That AP is capable of 867 megabits per second RF rate. The RF PHY speed is 867 megabits per second. So in most enterprise networks are just using a fraction of that speed. So when it comes to having time available to go off and do a scan, the AP has plenty of time to do it. So under the worst case scenario, the AP will do a scan, only schedule a scan for a few 100 milliseconds every 6 seconds. So the scan time is actually non-intrusive to the AP.
Okay, another question. What RF key features, such as beamforming, to mitigate RF impairments, issues, etc., do you have technical performance comparison in various hostile RF environments, such as Ruckus APs?
So we implement the standardized based transmit beamforming in 11AC, as all other vendors, including Ruckus, do as well. Ruckus is famous for their more analog based. It's called implicit transmit beamforming. Implicit means that the AP does it without knowing if the client is receiving it or not. So implicit is different than explicit. Explicit that we do and other vendors do, that was defined in the standard, actually involves the client, the actual smartphone, telling the AP of what it sees in its RF environment. Because if I'm standing over there 50 feet away from the access point, that's a completely different RF environment than standing right under the access point. So in explicit transmit beamforming, the client tells the AP about its RF environment. The AP uses that information for beamforming. So in Ruckus's model, they do that as well. And then they have their proprietary implicit beamforming, where the AP does not know anything about the client, and it tries to beam steer based upon received signal strength. So to answer your question directly, no, we have not done any side-by-side comparisons of Ruckus's implicit beamforming, because we just haven't had to do it. There's just really been no need to do it. 11AC, because it standardizes on the way beamforming should operate and must operate, every vendor is going to implement it exactly the same way, because it is a standard now. So we've gone from a proprietary solutions to standard solutions. So no, we have not done any comparisons.
Okay. Another question. As sellers are interested in residual income, are most integrators selling a monitoring contract with the devices using cnMaestro to do this?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're trying to improve cnMaestro to build up that capability, to give the MSPs more capability to provide a monitoring contract. And so you'll see if you log into cnMaestro something called Pro, Pro features, that little purple icon around it. Those Pro features are currently under development, and those are all about giving you more detailed reporting. So some of the stuff you can do with the Pro features, the Pro reports built into cnMaestro, is you can run some detailed reports on the utilization, the RF utilization, the client utilization, things that really affect the underlying quality of the network, not just how many devices were connected. Oh, there were 10 devices connected. And how fast were they? Oh, everybody was at 867 megabits per second. Those are kind of basic reports. Yeah, you can do those. But under Pro reports is where you can get into the details, the stuff that most of your customers will not be able to understand. And that's where your monitoring contracts are going to come, by monitoring the underlying qualities of the network and extrapolating that data into a RF quality and a report that you can submit to your customers on a regular basis. So look for further enhancements of the Pro features. So we do have some Pro feature plans for 2019 to add more capabilities. So keep an eye out on those, because that's where you're going to see the value in creating a monitoring contract.
Question also on a recommendation for a campground deployment as opposed to specifically hotels.
Campgrounds, the years in my experience, there's always customers coming up with these really neat campground opportunities, and they are complicated. They tend to be complicated because there isn't a lot of facilities in them to you get a lot of trees around them. That's one problem. Another problem is there's not a lot of poles, light poles and things around to install access points. So this is where Cambium networks. This is an area in which the previous companies I was associated with were very weak in terms of our ability to address campgrounds. And because of the lack of infrastructure in the campground, and there is a lack of infrastructure. You generally have power, because most of these high-end campgrounds will have facilities for the campers that they can rent. So there's generally power distributed throughout. And this is where Cambium, I think, is with our outdoor portfolio, the multi-point portfolio, PMP, is going to be a real advantage, because you're going to be able to use that technology to actually mesh together. The E700 and the E500s also do Cambium mesh as well. So they could also be used to create a Cambium mesh network and then also serve clients in a campground area. So all you need to do is locate power. I didn't show the E500 on this chart. So let me just skip over here. There we go. So you can see the E500. That's your low cost 2x2 access point. That one's going to work really well for campgrounds. I don't think campgrounds are going to be high utilization, but I could be wrong. I would love to see some information. If you guys can share some information on utilization in campgrounds, I'd like to see that. I suppose in a lot of ways, a campground would look like a hotel, and people sitting in a trailer are probably going to want to stream Netflix, just like they do in a hotel. So in that sense, maybe the E700 does a bit better, but I need to learn something about that as well. So please educate me on that, guys.
All right, and then we'll do one more question here, more of a basic question on how do we configure an AP to contact an on-premise cnMaestro?
So as opposed to as opposed to the cloud instance. So so on your cnMaestro on premises, on your controller itself, you're going to add that device. So it's going to have the ID of the device on your instance of cnMaestro. It will attempt to talk to cnMaestro Cloud, but there's not going to be an ID there for it to find. So it's going to then default to its local network, and it's going to send a layer 2 broadcast, and it's going to find that CNI still instance.
Okay, so we're coming up to the close here. I want to thank everybody for participating today, and again, thank you to Darren. And we will have a recording of the webinar that's available in case you'd like to share this with others. So keep an eye out for that. And until next time, thank you everybody for taking some time this afternoon with us, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.